UFC 290, Volkanovski versus Rodriguez. Full card prediction. We got Yair Rodriguez, a man that is pretty much only lost in those main event type of scenarios inside of the UFC to Frankie Edgar in a very, very fun fight where he lost by doctor stoppage, as well as Max Holloway right there. He had that crazy round 5 knockout win on Chan Sung Jung. The first round shoulder injury, the triangle choke. He's such an exciting, random type of fighter in that featherweight division, but he's taken on, in my opinion, the best featherweight of all time, arguable greatest featherweight of all time, and pound for pound #1. In my opinion, in that main event, that should be very fun. We got Brandon Moreno Pantoja 3, even though the challenger is actually 2-0 against Brandon Moreno. We got Bo Nickal making his, I believe, second fight in the UFC. A little bit of a step up there, but I think that should be a decent one. We have a main event for pretty much any UFC fight night just sitting there as the second fight on the main card. Robert Whittaker taking on Dricko du Plessis, with the winner, I'd say 100% getting a title shot next, whether that's UFC 293 or whether that's further on later down the year. We got Jalen Turner, Dan Hooker, which is a banger. Robbie Lawler, Niko Price, which is a banger, and the retirement fight for Robert Whittaker. We got two guys willing to throw down and look for the finish, Jesus Aguilar and Shannon Ross. Undefeated prospect Yazmin Jauregui taking on Denise Gomes, almost undefeated till, he lost his last fight. Esteban Ribovics and Kamuela Kirk. Got Vitor Petrino, undefeated, taking on Marcin Prachnio. Top 15, Jimmy Crute taking on Alonzo Minefield in a rematch. That first fight was an absolute barn burner, and maybe we see a trilogy in the future. We got Cameron Saaiman, undefeated South African, taking on an Ultimate Fighter alum, who a lot of you guys may recognize being the guy that got knocked out by Kai Kara France on that flyweight season where Tim Elliott ended up winning and taking on Demetrius Johnson. We got another, this is actually a catchweight fight, interesting, in Tatsuro Taira and Edgar Chairez, considering it is on short notice. Josiah, Harrell, and Jack Della Maddalena. This is right now the first fight of the night, but it is not going to be once the card actually comes to fruition. I had it on my Instagram a bit earlier, how the fight order and the fight lineup was going to look like, because I knew Tapology was just going to stick this fight as the first fight of the night. I promise, Jack Della Maddalena is not going to be on the first fight of the night. This is the actual bout order, having Jack Della Maddalena as the second to last fight on those prelims. So the first one is actually Tatsuro Taira, and Edgar Chairez did have a cancellation in Christian Rodriguez, Cameron Saaiman. Up comes Terrance Mitchell, had the Jack Della Maddalena, Sean Brady. Up comes Josiah Harrell. We had Manel Kape and Davison Figueiredo, but Davison being Davison accepted the fight for flyweight, and the man should not be at flyweight. I'm just going to leave it at that. But we're going to do a full card prediction. Every single one of these fights, bottom to top. So strap in, like the video, subscribe, comment all of your predictions down below in the comments. I do like to see what you guys are thinking. And without further ado, let's get into these predictions. In the flyweight division, Edgar Chairez and Tatsuro Taira, technically not in the flyweight division, but at a catch weight of 130 pounds. Undefeated Tatsuro Taira taking on Chairez on short notice. Originally was supposed to take on, I believe, Kletzen Rodriguez. I don't know why they're not showing it on here, but this is kind of a short notice fight here for Tatsuro Taira. He is 23 years old, undefeated as an amateur with a lot of sleeper choke submission wins. Became a pro in 2018, where, I kid you not, the man was 18 and a half years old, so he started very, very young. Ended up starting with a bunch of first round finishes there. One decision win on a veteran but he just kept on getting finishes. At one point, he was 10-0 in the UFC. He was like, dude, we got to bring this guy into the UFC. Went out and controlled, almost getting submissions over and over and over again on Carlos Candelario. Won that one fairly dominantly. Beat CJ Vergara very easily and beat Jesus Aguilar very easily as well. I don't think this one is going to be as easy as those other opponents, as Edgar Chairez is very, very solid on the ground as well. He does get submitted though. Axel Osuna as well as Jesus Aguilar, who also fought Tatsuro Taira, have gotten submissions on him, but he is a dog on the ground as well. He's very, very scramble heavy. He's got solid power in his hands. So Tatsuro doesn't need to go out there just thinking he can take him down and submit him very, very easily, which is going to be the prediction. I do have Tatsuro Taira getting that submission, but he's got to play it safe considering Edgar Chairez has some one-punch knockout power and always has that ability to finish this fight. Tatsuro Taira is a 10-1 favorite, so it's fairly obvious who I'm going to be picking. 97% going Taira. I got Taira with a round. Let's go round 2. Chairez is a very tough guy. Let's go round 2 submission for Tatsuro Taira. I think round 1 is going to be control and almost getting the submission. Round 2 is going to grab the back, search for that rear naked and turn it into an armbar, which you'll switch it in to yet another triangle armbar submission. Kamuela, Kirk, and Esteban Ribovics in the lightweight division. I will say first off that Kamuela Kirk is moving up a weight class here, coming off that loss to Damon Jackson. Before that, he was doing really good, beating Guilherme Santos with the knockout, beating Daniel Swain with the knockout, and coming in on short notice, beating Makwana Mirkani. He's about in the prime of his MMA career, same height as Esteban, but a huge reach for the weight class at 75 inches. It's either that or Esteban has a really small reach. A lot of people saying Esteban by knockout. Personally, I don't think so. Kamuela Kirk doesn't get knocked out too often. It was only the Billy Quarantillo fight, and even that one was very late into round number 3. He's mainly a grappler, mainly a jiu-jitsu guy, looking to get the fight down and win the fight there. Against a guy like Esteban Ribovics, I don't think he's going to absolutely dominate the fight there. I do believe maybe he gets 1 takedown, maybe he gets 2 takedowns, but for the most part, I think Esteban Ribovics keeps this one on the feet, having the more power here than Kamuela Kirk. Kamuela's going to be fishing for those takedowns, fishing for that submission. I don't think he gets it. I think Esteban is going to outstrike him on the feet, land the more powerful shots, being the more powerful puncher that he is, and I'm going to go Esteban Ribovics as the minus 200 favorite to get the TKO win. I'm just kidding. I got this fight going all the way to a decision. I don't know what those odds would be just yet. Let's check them out on Fight Odds. Usually they have them here very early on. He's at minus 170 now, so money is actually coming in on Kamuela Kirk at the moment, and they are saying this one is going to be a finish. So I got the over 2.5 at plus 155 as well. It should be a good one. I got Esteban by decision. Shannon Ross and Jesus Aguilar in the flyweight division, 34 and 27 years old. Shannon Ross, the dude's chin is just not there. The man gets rocked in almost every single exchange he is in. I don't know what's going to happen here. He got knocked out by Vinicius Salvador on the Contender Series, where he was undergoing a lot of problems in that fight going into it. Fought Kletzson Rodriguez and got absolutely starched, but now they're giving him a guy that's not necessarily known for his knockout power or anything like that. He's mainly known to go out there, take you down, and submit you with that guillotine like he did on the Contender Series. And I do believe here with Jesus Aguilar, I think Jesus is going to go out there looking to strike for a little bit, look to hurt Shannon on the feet, and do exactly what Fakhretdinov just did to Kevin Lee in the prelim headliner, and hurt Shannon Ross on the feet, submit him on the ground with that signature guillotine. Jesus Aguilar with a round 1 guillotine choke submission. What is up, Jags Nation? Welcome to the live stream. Glad to have you here. We're what are we? 3 fights in. We did Shannon Ross, the Kamuela Kirk fight, and the Tatsuro Taira one. I got Taira by round 2 submission. I do have Esteban Ribovics by decision. A lot of people saying finish on that fight. I got that one going all the way. And I got Jesus Aguilar with a first round submission. Cameron Saaiman and Terrance Mitchell in the bantamweight division. Terrance Mitchell a lot older at 33 years old. Very, very tall for this flyweight division. I'm 5'9" for the flyweight division. This dude's taller than that, and I cut a lot of weight to make that flyweight limit. And Terrance, 15-2, only losing to Kaikara France on the Ultimate Fighter, and way back in 2010. So he hasn't lost a professional MMA fight in 13 years, but he's not really fighting the best of competition, I will be honest. If Cameron wants to go out there and wrestle with Terrance Mitchell and take him down and control him, I believe he could do that to a unanimous decision. I also do believe that Cameron Saaiman could look to pressure Terrance forward and just start throwing some hooks and look to land on the chin of Terrance Mitchell and knock him out. That is what I'm going to go towards the betting odds on this fighter. -400, -450. I don't believe there are any like prop odds for this fight. I will have to refresh just to see, just in case there is one. Over 1.5 rounds is plus money. I do have it as a round 1 TKO for Cameron Saaiman, so I guess I would agree with that under 1.5 rounds, but should be an interesting one. Terrance doesn't have the best chin considering how skinny he is. There's not a lot of meat to kind of eat and absorb a lot of the punches that are coming his way. So I do believe Cameron finally gets that solid finish in the UFC over a solid guy here in Terrance Mitchell, and makes that 3-0 in the UFC, and possibly earning him a top 15 guy next, maybe a guy right outside of the top 15. I do have Cameron Saaiman with the round 1 TKO. Vitor Petrino and Marcin Prachnio in the light heavyweight division. I think Vitor's takedown defense is getting better and better and better every single fight. He's not really going to have to use it too much here against a guy like Marcin Prachnio, who's mainly a kickboxer, Muay Thai type of guy. And I'm going to be honest, it comes down to how many kicks Marcin Prachnio can land at range, and can Marcin use those kicks and use the strikes at range onto Vitor Petrino without getting hit with a big shot to Vitor Petrino coming in. Because it's either Marcin Prachnio by decision or Vitor Petrino with an early TKO. That is kind of my thoughts for this fight. Mike Rodriguez was able to knock him out early on in their fight. He's really not that good. Magomed Ankalaev, same thing, round 1 knockout. And Sam Alvey was the exact same thing. But when Marcin Prachnio was able to be technical and stay on the outside and outstrike, he was able to beat top 15 guys like Khalil Roundtree. And again, it comes down to, can Vitor Petrino close that distance to land those big shots? Personally, I do think he'll be able to land a lot of those big shots in this fight, but I'm actually going against what I said earlier in saying that it's either a knockout for Petrino or a decision for Prachnio. I think Prachnio has a lot of ways to survive the onslaught of Vitor Petrino, but I don't think those kicks and the variety of strikes from Marcin that aren't really that powerful are going to make up for the big shots Vitor is going to land. So I'm actually going to go a very close, sort of controversial, because you could make an argument that a lot of those kicks could be enough for Marcin to win the fight on the scorecards, but I am going to go Vitor Petrino with winning round number 1 and winning round number 3 to win that 29-28 decision. Betting odds for this fight have Vitor Petrino as a lot bigger of a favorite than I would agree with. Having Vitor at -280 is absolutely crazy. In my opinion, over 1.5 rounds, that's also crazy. I think the fight does go to a decision. Marcin Prachnio has not had one of his fights not go to a decision since the Ike Villanueva fight, and that is a very, very low-level guy. So I think this one goes all the way. What do y'all think? Vitor Petrino by decision. Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Minefield 2 in the UFC's light heavyweight division. And just for this fight, and just for this fight only, I'm going to have to go on to UFCstats.com. The reason being, these guys have fought before. And it was on UFC 284, so it was also the last time that Volkanovski fought was the last time that these guys actually fought as well. Jimmy Crute lost round number 1, lost round number 2, and won round number 3, but I believe there was a point deduction as well that got that fight to become a 28-28 draw. Alonzo Minefield was able to drop him in, which rounds was he able to drop him in? I believe round number 1 and round number 2. With round 3, Jimmy really able to mix in those wrestling and grappling. He was able to in round 1 and round 2 as well, but he also did get dropped. I think this fight, the striking is going to be a lot more even because Alonzo is going to be working with it, and I believe Alonzo Minefield is going to defend a lot more of the takedowns here from Jimmy Crute as well. I think round 1, Alonzo is going to slightly outstrike him, maybe hurt Jimmy Crute a little bit. Round number 2, I think Jimmy's going to be able to close that distance, land some good shots of his own, and find a way to get in on those takedowns. And once he gets in on those takedowns in round 2, he should have no problem doing the same in round number 3. I got Jimmy Crute winning round number 2, winning round number 3, and what is going to be a banger just like their first fight in the light heavyweight division. Betting odds, presumably, just as I thought coming in, are 50-50, minus 110, minus 110. Some of them are having Jimmy Crute as a slight favorite. Some of them are having Alonzo as a slight favorite. So it's a 50-50 fight. I do have it going all the way the last fight did. And I think Alonzo's submission defense on the ground is actually fairly solid. I don't really remember the last time Alonzo Minefield has been finished. It was the OV St. Preux fight. Other than that, the man has never been finished and has never been submitted in his pro MMA career. I got Jimmy Crute by a decision, plus 215 on just over 2.5. Probably plus 250 on it going to a decision. That is the prediction. Yazmin, Jauregui, and Denise Gomes in the strawweight division. Very young prospects here at 23 and 24 years old. Denise Gomes coming off a solid TKO win on Bruna Brazil in her last fight, but was able to get out wrestled and out grappled by Loma Lukbumi in the fight before that. Yazmin is taller, she is lengthier, she is more experienced, and she's quite honestly better everywhere. In the striking, I do believe the power is even, but the volume and variety of strikes does go in favor of Yazmin Jauregui. And in terms of wrestling and grappling, I think Yazmin could actually mix in some takedowns, could actually mix in some wrestling and grappling. And because we all know Denise is such a tough opponent to finish, I do believe this one does go all the way. I don't agree that Yazmin should be a 5-1, 4-1 favorite there, but I do believe the fight goes to a decision, and Yazmin should be the favorite and should win this fight. Minus 160 on the over 2.5 makes sense. Yazmin by 30-27, unanimous decision. Jack Della Maddalena and Josiah Harrell in the welterweight division, 26 and 24 years old, both up-and-coming prospects in their respective weight classes. Obviously, Jack is going to be a heck of a lot bigger, 4 inches taller in height and 6 inches taller in reach. He is a welterweight, originally supposed to fight Sean Brady, but a lightweight in Josiah Harrell is coming in here on short notice. He just fought about 2 weeks ago where he got the takedown later on in the fight, got that back mount and ground and pound of the TKO. That is the only way I see him winning here. He does not really have anything for Jack on the feet. It's the only way I see him winning is taking him down, getting the back of Jack Della Maddalena, considering maybe a Grant Dawson game plan. Getting the back, flattening out Jack Della Maddalena, ground and pounding and looking for that submission. If that doesn't happen, Josiah is kind of screwed because he's the lightweight, moving up 15 pounds to welterweight on short notice against a dangerous finisher in Jack Della Maddalena, who in the UFC has finished Pete Rodriguez in round 1, Ramazan Emeev in round 1, Danny Roberts in round 1, and Randy Brown also in round number 1. This dude is an absolute killer. All of his fights in round number 1, he is just such a finisher. Only one decision on Ange Lusa, who I don't remember ever getting a finish loss. He's never been finished. This dude's going to go out there and starch Josiah Harrell in round number 1 here. Josiah is a good wrestler, good grappler, but he's got nothing for Jack on the feet. And I'll be honest, if Jack wants to go out there and out-wrestle Josiah Harrell, out-grapple Josiah Harrell, he honestly could do that, considering that size advantage. But I think JDM is just going to keep it simple. Keep it on the feet, bloody up the nose of Josiah Harrell, and then just combination. Minute left, 2 minutes left. TKO win for Jack Della Maddalena. Betting odds for the fight aren't actually on here yet, which is a little bit weird. I did believe oh, there they are. Minus 950 for Jack Della Maddalena. They started at minus 825. Even then, there's money coming in on that. And I'm assuming the under 1.5 going to be like minus 300 or something like that. Going to be something crazy. But I got Jack by a first round TKO. Robbie Lawler and Niko Price in the welterweight division. I'm sorry. I mean, Niko Price, he's young. He's 33 years old. He's taller. He's lengthier. He's young, man. He lost to Phil Rowe in his last fight, but Phil Rowe is a top 15 contender type of guy, making it decently close with Neil Magny. He beat Alex Oliveira in their fight, made it pretty close against Michel Pereira, made it very close against Dono Cerrone, made it okayly close on Vicente Luque before he got that knockout loss. Now he's fighting Robbie Lawler, who's a lot slower than he once was. Doesn't have the same power in his hands, and definitely does not have the same chin as well here. But I think Niko Price is going to win a decision. The reason being is that Neil Magny got the decision on him. Colby got the decision on him. And I know Brian Barberino was able to get that TKO on him. But Niko Price, he is a finisher in a lot of his fights in the UFC. But a lot of them are in really, really weird ways. Like a rear naked on George, the hammer fist from bottom, and the up kick on James Vick. Other than that, he's not really on the feet, laying a few shots and getting the knockout like that. It's always in those weird circumstances. So I think Robbie Lawler can throw a lot of volume here on Niko Price. Niko mixing in some wrestling, some grappling, some weird scrambles and exchanges. Make this a relatively close one. Maybe Robbie's able to win the round just because of the sheer volume that he's going to be throwing here. And again, I want Robbie to win as much as the next guy in his retirement fight here. But I got this one going all the way. At least I'm hoping for a decision here. I don't want to see Robbie go out with a knockout loss like Frankie Edgar against Chris Gutierrez. But I got Niko Price winning this fight by a 29-28 decision. The odds having him as almost a 3-1 favorite there. Let's see, what are the odds on it going to a decision? That is what I'm very, very curious about. They do not, sadly. Sadly, they are believing that there is a finish for Niko Price. I'm hoping that's not the case, so I got Niko Price by a decision. Bo Nickal and Tresean Gore in the middleweight division. You might expect me to say a lamb to the slaughter here. Bo Nickal by submission, round number 1. I don't actually think that. I think Tresean Gore is going to give a lot more problems than a lot of people thought. And are thinking ahead of this fight. He's 29 years old. He's similar height, similar reach to Bo. He's training non-stop for the wrestling and the takedown defense for Bo Nickal for this fight. And he's a heavy hitter. I mean, he absolutely starched my man Gilbert Abrina on The Ultimate Fighter. He absolutely starched him, and he has that one-punch power to make this a really, really dangerous fight for Bo Nickal here in the middleweight division. I am going to go Bo Nickal to win by a round 2 submission, making that the longest fight of Bo Nickal's UFC and MMA career. But I think Tresean Gore is going to make it tough on him. Defend the first takedown of Bo Nickal, maybe the second one, get taken down after that and submitted. But I think Tresean's going to make this a relatively tough test for Bo Nickal here in his second UFC fight. I am overall going to go Bo Nickal with that second round submission. I think round 1, after Bo gets the takedown, Tresean's going to play it very safe to not get submitted. But round number 2, I do got him getting that finish. So right around that over 1.5 mark is where I see this fight ending. Bo Nickal with a second round submission. Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner in the UFC's lightweight division. I'm going to go Jalen Turner to win here. He is younger. He is taller and surprisingly the same reach as Dan Hooker here. I think Dan Hooker is technically the better striker, but Jalen Turner is the more powerful guy. And we saw Claudio Puelles was able to not necessarily get the takedowns, but was able to get the fight to the mat. And if Claudio can do it, Jalen Turner can do it, considering how much bigger he is than Claudio Puelles. And once he gets his there, Jalen Turner is nasty with the ground and pound, nasty with his submissions, and I do believe he's going to catch Dan Hooker with one of those. Maybe even hurts Dan Hooker on the feet like Henat Fakhretdinov did to Kevin Lee, and maybe he hurts him on the feet and submits him on the ground. All very, very likely and possible outcomes here for this lightweight fight. I don't believe he should be a minus 240 favorite or anything like that, but I got this one going into round number 2. I think round 1 is going to be a barn burner of a striking match. Round 2, I think he hurts Dan Hooker on the feet, finds a way to get it to the mat, and submits Dan Hooker towards the middle, so that over 1.5 is really, really risky in terms of hitting or not. I got Jalen Turner, round 2, submission. Robert Whittaker and Rico Duplessis in the middleweight division. The big storyline, in my opinion, about this fight is that Duplessis can finally breathe again. The man has been going into every fight really not able to breathe. I mean, it's been really, really weird for Rico Duplessis not being able to breathe this far into his MMA career. He is taller than Whittaker, he is lengthier than Whittaker, he is younger than Robert Whittaker, and he is a dog. He comes forward, he does that Juliana Pena blitz every now and then, which could be dangerous on Robert Whittaker if he's able to land. And, I mean, with his nose being good, he could have that cardio to push the pace in round number 2, round number 3. I'm not expecting a finish from either guy. I'm expecting a hard-fought, possible fight of the night here from one of these two guys. In the middleweight division, I am going to go Robert Whittaker to win. Considering Driku likes to do those blitzes, that's very good for a counterpuncher like Robert Whittaker to catch him coming in with good kicks to the body, good counters, jabs, and good right hands onto Driku Duplessis coming in. I believe Driku is going to get countered a lot in this fight, but it's not saying that Driku cannot land coming in on Robert Whittaker and able to wobble Robert Whittaker as he comes in for those combinations. I do believe Driku will give a tougher test to Robert Whittaker than that of Marvin Vettori. I think he's going to give a tougher test to Whittaker than Kelvin Gastelum, than Jerry Cannonier did, and that Darren Till did, and that's saying a lot for a lot of these fighters. I think Dricus is going to make this very, very tough and at least win one of the rounds where he might rock Robert Whittaker, but for the most part, Whittaker is more technical. He's going to keep this one on the feet, stay on the outside, mix in those combos, mix in those counter shots, and I do have Whittaker by a unanimous decision. Should he be a 4-1 favorite? Probably not. Maybe a 3-1 would be a little bit high. I kind of have him at minus 300 as a 75% confidence about. And yeah, plus 125 for it to go over 2.5. Could be some good odds on that decision, as I do have Whittaker by a decision. Brandon Moreno and Alessandro Pantoja, 3 in the UFC's flyweight division. I am going to go Brandon Moreno by a decision. Alexander is a really good wrestler, really good grappler, able to mix that in very nicely in his last fight against Alex Perez, especially in the Brandon Royval fight as well. Able to mix in a little bit on Manel Kape. Manel was able to defend a lot of the takedowns in that fight. I do believe Brandon Moreno should have the skills to defend most, if not all of these takedowns from Alexander Pantoja. There will be moments of danger where Pantoja gets those takedowns, gets the back of Brandon Moreno, and gets close to submission. But I do believe, I say 75-80% of this fight will be spent on the feet, with Brandon Moreno being the better striker. He's taller, he's lengthier, he's more powerful, he's got better boxing. I do believe, for the most part, with this being a striking battle, that Brandon Moreno should eke out that victory. One round going Pantoja due to the just straight up jiu-jitsu, getting the takedown, getting close to a submission. Another one, a very close striking match, and then Pantoja gets the fight to the ground last second and almost gets the submission there as well. I got 2 rounds going Pantoja, 3 going to Brandon Moreno in a very, very close fight there. In the flyweight division, I think it should be like a minus 130 for Brandon Moreno. Very close one there in the flyweight division. I got it going all the way. Brandon Moreno by decision. Alexander the Great Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez. In the featherweight division, 34 years of age is Alexander, I was about to say Pantoja, Alexander Volkanovski, and 30 years old is Yair Rodriguez, the taller guy, but not the lengthier guy. As we all know, my man Volkanovski has a very long reach for this featherweight division. Volkanovski is the better wrestler. He is going to be the better grappler. He's got solid submission defense. He's got really good wrestling offense and defense. Amazing and devastating ground and pounds. And his striking is also very technical. Really good leg kicks, good jabs, and good movements, and just good at walking down on his opponents and coming in. But you can't do that against a guy like Yair. You can't just walk down and come forward on him, because he's going to go out there flying knee you, head kick you, front kick you, do all sorts of crazy stuff as you are coming in. So I'm curious to see what Volkanovski's game plan is going to be. Is he going to go out there and just take down Yair and smash him on the ground with ground and pound? Because I believe he could do that if he wanted to. Or is he going to go out there and make it a technical striking fight, mix in those leg kicks to limit the movement of Yair, and then mix in those takedowns? Either way, I think Yair Rodriguez wins round number 1, proves that he is definitely legit and lands some good shots on Alexander Volkanovski. Lands some flying knees that Alexander the Great is going to eat, and I think he wins round number 1 fairly comfortably. But once round number 2 comes and Volkanovski figures out that range, figures out the timing and the movement of Yair Rodriguez, and is able to mix in some of those takedowns, I think every round after that, round 2, Volkanovski, round 3, Volkanovski, round 4, round 5, all Volkanovski. Alexander for a 49-46 unanimous decision. Betting odds, very interesting. Minus 625 on one. The best you're going to get at minus 390 on DraftKings. And if you want to look at the props, the only one that's out, the over 4.5 rounds, is plus money. So I do have a decision here for Alexander Volkanovski. Should be a good one in the featherweight division. That is it for the full card prediction. UFC 290 International Fight Week. I got Alexander Volkanovski winning by a 49-46 decision. Brandon Moreno 48-47 decision, possibly even a split decision. Bo Nickal a second round submission. Robert Whittaker 29-28 decision. Jalen Turner second round submission. Niko Price by decision. Jesus Aguilar round 1 guillotine. Yazmin Jauregui by decision. Esteban Ribovics by decision. Vitor Petrino by decision. Jimmy Crute by a decision. Obviously, one of those will probably be a finish. Cameron Saaiman with a round 1 TKO. Tatsuro Taira with a round 2 submission. And Della Maddalena with a round 1 TKO. Should be a solid card. Make sure to like as usual. Make sure to subscribe. It all supports the channel. And if you want to become a channel member for all of the bets, I'm not saying all the bets are going to cash, but if you just want to see what bets I'm making for every UFC card, it is only $2.99 a month. It does help the channel out. I don't really make much money at all on this channel, so check the link down below in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you guys for watching. That's the full card prediction. We'll see you in the next one.